Cedric Maxwell Podcast
is brought to you by Prize Picks.
You look at Joe's body of work, he gets thrown into the fire. Year one, they get to the playoffs, disappointing exit to an 8 seed. They go down 3-0 in that series. It is what it is. You come back, you win the NBA Finals. That's with you forever. You're an NBA championship winning coach. No one's taking that away from you. You get to the next year and you lose to a team you probably should have beat in the second round. If you look at Joe's overall body of work with his regular season record and the fact that he was thrown into the fire, not expected to, a second or third assistant on a team going to head coach, you'd say he's done a remarkable job. And again, just the way that he's gotten them to play and buy into his style, it gets you a title. And it's really hard to argue that Joe Mazzulla has been good for the Celtics. But again, what have you done for me lately sort of scenario. It's hard not to look at Joe and say, well, 2 of 3 seasons, Celtics have been eliminated by a team they should have beaten. How much you put that on the coach, I don't necessarily know. But if they come out and struggle, even though you're expecting a step back this year with a roster that's not going to look the same and Jason Tatum being out for most of it, if they're a play-in team, Max, they miss the playoffs altogether. Can Joe survive that?
Be tough. It really would be tough.
Even if the roster isn't one,
it would be tough.
Yeah.
Does Joe want to survive that? That's another question. Because does Joe want to pivot and go backwards and have that kind of team that's going to struggle? It would be very, very tough when you look at it. I'm one of his biggest fans when I think of Joe Mazzulla. But in the modern NBA, with the coaching carousels, the way they are, it is what did you do? And we know how Boston is, how loud it can become when you think about coaches losing. Bill Belichick, the greatest to ever do it. It was a bombardment at the end of his reign to get his ass out of here. So he's one of the greatest. So would it surprise me? No. If his team was a play-in team, I think there would be a lot of noise.
So I'll ask you this, because you've played for coaches who can be tough and gruff. You've played for nicer guys. You've also covered them, in your role as a broadcaster. So you've seen a lot in terms of what works. How important is it? Because you mentioned Belichick. I always say this with Joe Mazzulla. Media can always feel a little bit slighted when a guy doesn't answer your questions, but fans don't give a crap about that, especially when the team is winning, because they like those guys more than they like us. And that's always been a fact. So when Joe doesn't answer questions or slaps a reporter around at a press conference, I kind of find it funny. Some people get up in arms about it. It is what it is. But those guys are the guys who are, writing. There's that saying, you never insult people that buy ink by the barrel full. Like, if the people who are setting the narratives for you is that media and things start to go horribly wrong, that's how things go downhill quickly. And I think it always ends badly for people who don't play nice to a degree, with very few exceptions. But even Belichick, people were quick to pile on because he beat them up for 20-something years. Acknowledge the greatness when he's great, but boy, are they sitting there waiting to bury you the second you go down. If you could advise Joe, would you say, hey, Joe, make nice with these guys? It's going to help you. No.
I say, Joe, stay the course. Be who you are.
And I think he will.
And he will be who he is. And here's the thing, the biggest narrative that you have to paint is how do the players feel about Joe Mazzulla?
That's the only thing that matters.
And that's the only thing that matters. And what we know right now is the guys on this team, they will go to war for Joe Mazzulla. And that's all that matters. You can't, I know the media loves to be, we play nice night. And, somebody to be like,
I agree.
Doc Rivers, or, you're going to be like Tito. Tito, one of the most beloved coaches.
He was great.
Yeah, Tito's great. You can't, hey, at the end of the day, it should be more about the players and the organization, the relationship. Joe bends over backwards to make sure that these guys are comfortable. He tries as much as he can to insulate these guys. He told me one day, he said, I don't want Tatum to feel all that pressure. I said, Joe, that's impossible. It's like, why? I said, it's impossible because social media. Social media is going to make all these guys feel pressure that Cedric Maxwell never felt during his career. Never
Yeah.
felt that. There was Eddie Alderman. He was around during the time back in the day. He was beating the bandwagon for Cedric Maxwell to get out of here. But I didn't hear it because I didn't listen to the radio and I didn't have any way to get it. Somebody might tell you something from time to time, but right now, if a player wants to find out if he's beloved or not, all he has to do is turn on Twitter. See what your feed is. See how
Yeah.
people beat you up, where they're coming from. I mean, Jason Tatum, Jason Tatum is so complex in the fact that he's been so good for so long and has gone to these finals and won a championship, close to being the MVP. And right now, we're still there's a narrative out there that Shea is better than him even before he gets the championship. That he's accomplished more than Jason before he even gets a championship. So that's how it turns back and forth. And I love the banter that we talk about when we talk about these teams and when we talk about these coaches. But at the end of the day, your relationship should be more solid with your players than it is a relationship with you or with me or anybody out there with the ink in their hand
100%.
or pressing the button or pressing the
100%.
button. If that's what you live for, if that's what you live for, pressing the button and making those guys happy, then you've already lost your job. You've already
That's what I
lost
said.
the ability with me.
That's what I say. Bobby jumps on the Garden reports and he's all flustered by Joe. And I'm like, nobody cares, Bobby. I was like, they're rooting for him, not you. Even though I'll defend Bobby. I don't like it when Joe's mean to him, but that's beside the point. That's just personal. But I get to yell at Bobby. Not, I'm just that's it. No, but in terms of that, I've said that 100%. Like all
Wait a
these
minute,
coaches.
is this the same Bobby Manning that put my name out there one
Oh,
time
yeah.
as a high ranking? He got some information from a high ranking Celtic official.
Yeah.
And then Joe Sway was with him and said, "Oh, go ahead, Bobby, tell it." And he said, "Cedric Maxwell, high
Cedric said it.
ranking." I was like, I don't have a title, I don't have a ranking. So this is the same Bobby Manning you're talking about. Okay.
You're plugged in one way or the other. But that's what it comes down to. Every coach who loses their job, there's two reasons. One, can't fire the players, so you got to fire the coach. Number two, some sort of mutiny or the players just aren't responding. Some guys, eventually, they just get tuned out, even the really good coaches. Mazzulla knows that. That's the fate he's going to suffer eventually at one point or another where, that system and his style and the way he is. But the only other reason would be gross incompetence. And Joe's clearly proven that he is a basketball savant. So it's not going to be lack of understanding what's going on there. I think coaches are always low hanging fruit. And I think that they get too much blame for when things go wrong. It's really up to the players. I think if the players keep wanting to play for Joe, Joe stays here.